Okay, people, back to our talk about different kinds of psychotherapies. Of late, there have been a number of brief therapies, and you know, we navigate this healthcare system. And back in the day, and I mean like 19th century, when Freud and Jung and others were coming up, Anna Freud, his daughter, were coming up and creating psychotherapy, or the whole field of psychology was developed. There was a thought that it took years, and it did take years, and that the patient would lie on the couch, and Sigmund Freud would sit behind the patient's head and with a pad and just take notes and say, mm-hmm. Now, there are some funny historical anecdotes about Sigmund Freud. A couple things. Number one, Sigmund Freud was quite the cokehead. He loved his cocaine, and as a result, and I think he probably smoked, he was in Vienna, Austria, he smoked cigarettes or cigars or something, so he had really bad breath. And so some of the historical anecdotes about why did he sit behind the patient, or why was the patient on the couch, and why was it facing the other direction, was part of it is he really didn't smell very good, and that he really liked his cocaine. Anyway, so that's Sigmund Freud. But the idea of psychoanalysis, or what's now called psychodynamic psychotherapy, arose out of that school, where the patient just comes in 2 to 3 times a week, sits for an hour or up to 90 minutes and just talks and just processes. And that was the origins. That's where we came from. Well, of late, and I've talked about that in another video, and I'm not going to say it is dead. I think psychodynamic psychoanalysis is still very much alive. I was offered a training program back in the 90s, when I started my training as a therapist, and I declined it. I turned it down. It just was very expensive. The training was very expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was to be a psychodynamic psychotherapist. And I had friends and colleagues that were going that route. I chose not to go that route. But some other therapies that have been kind of popular lately, one is called solution-focused treatment. And these days, with our healthcare system, and that healthcare doesn't pay for very much, solution-focused treatment is really a very brief, 6-session to 12-session kind of treatment episode, where, not surprisingly, the patient is asked, if you could have it any way you wanted it, what would you want? Now, as you know, if I ask you that question, if you could have it any way you wanted, how would you want it? You go, well, I don't know. But I really don't like this, and I really don't like that, and I really don't like the other thing. And let me tell you what's wrong, and let me tell you what's bad, and let me tell you how bad I feel. And that's the human nature. And so solution-focused treatment really is a very simple process by which we ask the patient for what's the ideal picture. What do they want? What are they currently doing to get what they want? What else could they try? How's it working? And what will you do? And that process really is very helpful for higher functioning patients, for higher functioning people who it really is more like goal setting. And it occurs within a context of only a few sessions. And we use that quite frequently with professionals, with people who are kind of the worried well, if you will, not thought disordered, not super, super, super depressed. And that is solution-focused treatment.